Wheel of Genre, the show for readers who were thinking about going vegetarian, but then they met Whitby. Each month we spin the wheel and land on a new genre. Spies, mysteries, horror, romance, SF. It's all on the shelf. And right now we are reading horror novels.
When the Walls Fell, Zach. We're reading Annihilation, Authority, Acceptance, and Absolution, all by Jeff VanderMeer.
Hot dog, and this time it is Absolution. I'm Zach, and this week I am really interested in, I don't know, I had such a visceral response to this book. I didn't even take any notes, which is probably a first. But this book was a triumph for me, and I want to talk about why.
Whoa, goodness gracious, Zach. I'm not sure what to say about this book. I don't know if it's a triumph or a frolic of his own. I'm Bob. I got pneumonia. And I'm interested in time, life, death, and the uncanny. Zach,
wait, are you on cough syrup again for this episode?
Have you ever looked at your... I took it and I looked at it and it just said opium. I was like...
Well, when in Taiwan, I guess.
Yeah, wow. But anyway, what a book. This is off the chain, Zach. Why did you like it?
I couldn't believe it, Bob. I could not believe how good this book was. And here's the thing. Last episode, we started off really split on the previous book, Acceptance. You thought it was incredible. You said that there was experimental literary techniques going on, different narratives, different emotional arcs playing out across different things, and just a new sense of style for Jeff VanderMeer in the last book. I wasn't as sold. I kind of felt like the last book maybe lacked focus a little bit. Maybe the ideas weren't as forthcoming as they felt originally. This book is everything that I wanted the previous book to be. It has form, it has style, and it has so many haunting images, so many times in the book where I just put it down and went, wow, I can't believe that just happened.
I had that the same, but I was thinking, wow, that sounded delicious. I'm curious. I really liked Acceptance. I thought Acceptance was pure gold, and it felt like I was putting things together. You said it much more eloquently than I did, but I was talking about it being like terroir, just a bunch of layers sitting on each other, rotting all over each other. This feels like it's very two distinct parts almost. It's like Twin Peaks, and then it's Naked Lunch. And man, I love Lowry in this book, but I feel like it's the uncanny just really, the engine of this book feels like whatever is uncanny is going to go in, and that seems to be what Area X is doing too. There's weird things with cameras, and that's why it makes me think, okay, what on earth is this ecology trying to do? It seems like it's just trying to be uncanny and spook people out. I feel like I'm not putting together a mystery anymore.
Oh, okay, so that's really interesting. You're not putting together a mystery anymore. Do you think the fact that this is mostly, or rather entirely, a prequel, as opposed to being half prequel, half sequel, plays into the fact that you don't feel like you're putting together a mystery anymore?
I think, it's not exactly a prequel, though, too, which is, I think, the most interesting part about this book, because it's a prequel that is affected by the later books. The future is coming into the past in this book. And I like that aspect. But I felt like there were different tectonic plates kind of coming. Pangea was coming back, Zach, in Acceptance. And this feels like we're just lost in a trip. It's a long con. It's a mystery with old Jim and Cass, his fake daughter. I really like that element, but it seems like it's there just to be uncanny and weird. And then it goes on to a strange drug trip. So I feel like I'm not behind the wheel anymore. I felt like Acceptance, I was there. I had my little tweezers. I had my magnifying glass. I was putting stuff together. This, I'm in the passenger seat, and Jeff VanderMeer is driving me through the beach of bones. Yeehaw. But yeah, I felt like I was on a Disneyland ride where I'm just going around seeing crazy things. Like, it feels like there are no rules anymore. That's an unfair thing to say, but here's what I suspect is there are no more rules about how Area X works. And I was trying to put together the rules last time, but now it's anything could be happening. And I feel that is also our relationship with the characters too. In the last book, there were maybe 3 main characters, and I was thinking each one is a lens. And so through each lens, we get to see this more clearly, or at least we see their take on it. And by doing that, I felt like we were coming to a more clear take altogether. Now it feels like no matter which character we are with, everything is a lie. And even when they find out it's a lie, we're not even sure it's a lie. Just to give you an example, old Jim, who was in the last book, Acceptance, playing the piano to his heart's content until his fingers explode. That's dedication. But he gets, well, we are with him this whole time because he actually is an agent for Central. But then his daughter disappears, and a few years later, I can't exactly remember how many years, Zach, but his daughter comes back. However, it's a fake daughter. Now, we keep getting stories about how she really is a fake daughter trained to be his daughter. But then even that, there are little reveals that show, no, maybe she really is his real daughter. So we never come to any clear facts at all. It's always a uncanny feeling of, I'm uncomfortable because there's a doppelganger. I'm uncomfortable because I can't find the truth. I'm uncomfortable because no truth I can grasp is going to stay within my grasp. It's going to turn into shadow again.
I feel like we landed definitively on, like, she's not the daughter. She's someone else who was initially dressed as the daughter, but then he kind of emotionally imprints on her. But I guess I just want to say that where that may have fallen flat for you, I thought it was this book's incredible step forward. And by that, I mean, what we got with the previous books was uncanniness that is tied to Area X. But what this book gives us is something that is grounded in the real world and is of the same logic as what we got in the previous books. This time we have a doppelganger. We have someone who shows up in his life again, who is essentially his daughter, looks just like his daughter, seems to have a lot of the memories of his daughter, but it's actually just like a spy doppelganger. It's someone impersonating his daughter. And he has to navigate that not only intellectually, parsing together, is she not, but emotionally, because it's people trying to manipulate him through his emotions. In that sense, I felt like he was really doing an interesting and exciting thing by having Central use a tactic that Area X had used, the creation of doppelgangers, but really in the reader's mind, linking the two entities together as kind of fundamentally having the same MO. I thought that was one of several examples really of VanderMeer basically saying, yeah, I know I did all these things before, but I'm not going to retread the past. I am going to take it even further.
I did like it. I'm not saying I didn't like it, but I do still suspect there's so many, because Jack Severance comes and Jackie Severance talks about Jack Severance saying, well, maybe it's a true cover story, Cass's old, the fake Cass, her old life, or not. We're not going to tell you if it's true or not. She tells them the past, but maybe it doesn't exist. What do you think as far as Area X kind of being not in cahoots necessarily with Central, but parallel, or at least functioning in a similar way in this book? Again, as a prequel, but also as the 3 books coming to infect this prequel, because Area X is sending things almost as if it's trying to, what do they say, occupy all spaces and times, or trying to colonize the past. How does it feel at the beginning when we have this strange rogue character? We have all of these weird rabbits. We've seen the rabbits before in Authority when we had the image of all that they said, okay, we're going to test Area X, shoot all of these rabbits, not shoot them, put all of these rabbits into Area X, put little cameras around their necks, see what happens. Now, they come out, but they come out backwards through time. They show up and they're very, very strange. Does it feel like, I guess, Central is trying to, in their combating Area X, are they also causing the same amount of harm for all of these other characters, for old Jim, for Cass? Is Central really an equivalent or exacerbating Area X?
Possibly. I mean, this seems to be a large question that the book is raising. And I think that, again, to point out the strengths of this book is that it fundamentally rewrites our understanding of what we knew about Area X before. I suppose we knew that there were time hijinks up, with the revelation at the end of Acceptance that one of the characters had been there for like 30 years and, another character had been there for 3 years,
And 2 versus 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we knew that there was something going on with time, but I think that what this did for our understanding of the book was make us recognize that there's a very circular or cyclical notion of time, I guess you could say, in there, where things that happen in the future outside of Area X, like you said, impact the past in Area X. And for me, what it did was it made me then think back to the previous books and made me be like, well, how much of what we thought we knew, like how does this new information affect the previous books? And I would just hold that as a rubric of, if the new information didn't affect the previous books, I would say, that's fun, but maybe that's not very thoughtful of the writer. But it made me think about the old books in a completely different way. One example being this whole military thing. They sent in the military to occupy the lighthouse, and they saw a monster kind of rise, or maybe it's the sea itself that rose, and they were shooting their guns at the ocean. Yada yada yada. Well, it made me think, like, were they fighting the biologist? The biologist terroir form, but in the past, in a kind of like state of timelessness. It really, I don't know. In some ways, it felt like it fleshed out the information in a really pleasing way without providing us any concrete answers.
Oh, okay. Because it's made me feel very uncomfortable, and I think that's the heart of it. In the last book, when I thought I was piecing things together, now it feels like all bets are off, and there is no figuring it out, and not just it can play by its own rules, but there is no understanding it, I guess, and that's kind of frightening. So Jeff VanderMeer had us kind of trying to figure out this mystery for 3 books now, comes back 10 years later, writes this, and gives us a dose of, you will never come to understand what Area X is doing. So I think that's why I'm starting to feel uncomfortable with these things. And you see that even in the form. When you get to the second half, when we see Lowry, and it is wild, it completely abandons any sense of writing or form that we've seen in the previous books. So we've gone from this almost being like members of the Southern Reach and going into the territory. Now it's all just coming at us, surrounding us, coming at us from all sides, and I guess never showing us its face.
Bob, I wonder if what you're identifying might be, in a sense, something like weird fatigue, if that makes sense.
Oh, maybe.
Like, okay, so in the first 3 books, like this feeling that you're describing, I wonder if that's, totally buying in on the mystery of the weird. But then in this one, I wonder if what you're feeling is the mental recognition that this feeling of incompleteness is actually a literary technique. So, for the next book, he doesn't have to answer anything. He can just create new mysteries. Who's the rogue? What's up with this alligator? What's the rules with talking suits? Or cameras that show you, crazy, impossible things. Like, he doesn't have to go back and reveal anything. He could just create new mysteries, potentially forever. He could just be a generating machine of constant new mysteries. And that recognition that, oh wait, these things that I was actually quite invested in finding the answer for, he's beyond that. Like, that's totally out of the question that we will ever learn anything.
So you're saying I'm weirded out. What do you think of? So I think that's why I like Lowry so much in this. The writing is incredible, in my opinion. Maybe other people would not like it so much, but I think the writing is incredible in the Lowry section. And I also like his refusal to take part in being weirded out. He's just so into participating it, but also so against it. Just to give an example, there's just super nuts stuff going on. The lighthouse appears to everyone slightly different, but it appears like this crazy flashing blue anemone thing. There are bones all over the beach. There's half a destroyer in the sea. And everyone in the party who's gone with Lowry, it's a much bigger party than, because it's the first one, bigger than the later ones. I think they have 20 people, something like that. And quickly they're just dying, like, dropping like flies, turning into weird, strange, goopy creatures. And eventually Lowry actually bites the border. Like, it's starting to drop down over them, and everyone's backing away because it could kill them. And Lowry jumps into it and bites it. Of course, they reveal to him later. I thought that was great. They reveal to him later, though, that he's just kissing it and humping it. So, like, Lowry, I think, is an interesting character here. He's almost so animal that maybe Area X doesn't know what to do with him because he just acts like an animal. But he also is kind of a human spirit character of, I will not let this thing take me while it's taking everyone around me. I really liked Lowry in this.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So much to talk about in this section. Like you said, the style, absolutely incredible. For anyone who has a chance to get the audiobook, I listened to the audiobook while I read it. And to hear a amphetamine-addled man at 2x speed, rattling off these lines that basically, make Limp Bizkit's Chocolate Starfish and the hot dog flavored water look like a children's album in comparison. It really is like an incredible performance of character and a performance of style by Jeff VanderMeer in a way that, to me, is one of the signals in this book that this is just like a completely next level of craft going on here. But I like what you're saying about his personality and maybe this kind of like intensely human, intensely animal personality being some key to his survival. What do you think about him is so compelling? Like, what is it that makes him feel, well, in my eyes at least, more real than most of the other characters we've met?
In some ways, he's willing to go along with the ride because he has his friend Landry, who is just hooking him up with all sorts of drugs, and they keep singing Lowry and Landry in a tree, DOING, DRUGS. I thought that was great. So he is having fun in a way, and he's not being terrified, and he refuses to be terrified, yet he still tells us his emotions. He tells us he cries at one point. He tells us he knows he's being tricked. He is the one to identify that they all need to get out of their suits. They're in these like deep sea diver suits, and they first enter Area X because they don't know what will happen to them. It's the first expedition. And one of his comrades, the face just like vacuums right against the glass, just kills him instantly. So Lowry says, take off the suits, take off the suits. And he is very content just to get naked and let everyone see him naked, and everyone else is not sure about it. He is solving problem after problem. He is like a drug-addled Odysseus, is what he feels like. While everything he does seems idiotic, he's the only one that survives. And it's because he is making these decisions as stupid as they seem.
Yeah, when he said throw down your guns, I was like, I can't believe in a gunfight, anyone would listen to him. And people did not listen to him. And what happened was their guns turned to fish, and then fused with their arms, and then flopped them into the water and started eating them. Like, what?
They should have known.
I do get what you're saying about it feels like we're just kind of on a track of Jeff VanderMeer showing us the next weird, unsettling, horrible image. I feel like if he had written this book immediately after Annihilation, I would not have liked it, because we already saw weird and unsettling in Annihilation. And I think that that's like playing to the cheap seats to be like, oh, let's take the family back to the haunted house and see what kind of spooky sights we can find.
I'll go.
But he took us out. He took us to, workplace horror, and then he took us after that to I don't even know how we could categorize acceptance, but he took us to other places, and he didn't really seem to give us what we wanted. Here, I think that he could have written a novel that played to the cheap seats. That could have. It is what everyone wanted. It fundamentally is. People, I think, want to see wacky things happening in Area X, but he gave us so much more than that in terms of the character, in terms of these, weird emotional things, in terms of the hallucinogenic, psychedelic mishaps that happen with old Jim. In terms of all of this stuff, it feels like there's a lot more here than just taking us on this wild ride to see the talking suit whisper up at Lowry, put me on.
I love that talking suit. I think you're right. It is more than, I'm just trying to figure out if it is as good as Acceptance. I know that it's probably better and that I'm wrong and it's the cough medicine talking.
We can disagree on this, Bob. We can disagree.
Well, this is great. Why do you think that there are two narrators? I have two main characters. It seemed very obvious in the last one. It seemed like the right three characters to pick. Here, I think it's quite interesting. They are kind of similar. Like they're almost the same. They are different people, but they are almost the same archetype. It's like a hero in a story. Old Jim was making a comeback, and Lowry, who talks about coming a lot. Lowry, who just is a hero all the time. Why have them both? Is it that old Jim fails?
Well, it's not just two, right? That first part of the book with the rabbits, what perspective is that told from? Because it's not old Jim's perspective.
Like a community perspective.
Is it a community? It's a third person omniscient, or are we reading? We're not reading a diary because it talks about how some people's diaries say this and other people's diaries say that.
I think it's old Jim telling us he's collected these diaries, as far as I could tell, and relaying it to us. But our experience is third person omniscient. However, I believe it's through him. Could be wrong.
Yeah. This book to me feels like more like a collection of short stories set in the same universe than it does a singular novel. The other books, they are novels. This to me feels like a short story anthology. It's a fix-up novel. Like in spy fiction or detective fiction, or Conan the Barbarian, when they take a bunch of short stories and ram them together and say, yeah, we'll just write little interludes between these to turn these short stories into a novel. That's what I feel like we have going on here.
A fix-up novel. But Zach, I think there's something really, even though it does feel like a lot of little stories lumped together, I think there's something really interesting about Lowry. I want to come back to Lowry. Earlier, you were saying that, yes, this might be a track of the uncanny, and I was saying that maybe the engine is the uncanny here. And I'm thinking the reason maybe Lowry survives is he's the only one who can both say yes to it and both say no to it, both acknowledge it and refuse it at the same time. He's almost a contradiction as he exists. And I like when he starts just yelling at inanimate objects because he refuses to, I guess, have them define him. There's the lighthouse and everyone is terrified by it. Like someone says, what is it? It's a snake. Oh, it's a snake rearing up on its hind legs. Someone says, snakes don't have legs. It's a pillar of smoke. Someone else says, a tower of ice. And eventually Lowry says, why are you even, why not? I probably shouldn't actually say what he says or we're going to get canned. He uses a lot of bad words. I'll say that. And then he says, I refuse to let this thing, I'm not going to call it what it wants. I'm going to call it whatever I want, and I'm going to make it look ridiculous because it is ridiculous. I really like this character who, while it seems like, actually, no, it really does seem like Alice in Wonderland a little bit because it's a character having to go through and solve riddles that are absolutely absurd. And there's no reason that those should be the right answer. And he's doing them all right. And in his drive to stay alive, his will to both inhabit the absurd while still to refuse the absurd, I think is very inspiring. And when he eats Whitby, that's the most inspiring that we could possibly hope for.
I want to talk about that. But first I want to say that he is the most egoistic character we have encountered yet. And I don't mean that in a negative way, though it probably isn't, a very, I don't know if I'd want to be around him, we'll say, but he has the strongest sense of self of any character I think we've encountered in all of weird fiction. And that has to play a part in his response to it. I mean, compare Lowry, his response to everything he sees, to your average Lovecraftian protagonist who looks upon the horror and immediately goes insane. I get the sense that Lowry was totally insane well before he entered Area X, and yet he has managed to keep his marbles, so to speak, throughout it all. He's an incredible balancing act of ego and wits and intuition. And this is new information for us because the only thing we knew about Lowry before was that he was the disembodied voice over the phone, hypnotizing control, using a voice garbler, and he was spoken as a kind of hero in authority. He's the one who made it through, or did he? There's so many there's so many questions that this book raises about what the actual truth of that is. So let's talk about that Whitby scene. Your favorite character. They say in The Office, if you want to succeed, you really got to give it all, and that's something that I think Whitby did all the way through to the very end. What do you make of that note that just said, "Do not eat"?
See, very Alice in Wonderland. Do not eat. I don't know. And why would you think? In this case, the opposite is correct. We never know. It's not a case of formulaically saying, okay, anytime I get any instruction or any impulse in this place, I should do the opposite. This just happens to be do not eat, and Lowry decides, obviously the answer is I must eat it. I think it's really fun, and it sounded just fantastic. It sounded like it could go in Better Homes and Gardens. I mean, it says a taste bud tingling smell. I've got a huge thing of notes for my own personal notes. Suckling pigs, long wreaths of sausages, plum puddings, barrels of oysters, cherry-cheeked apples, juicy oranges, cornbread stuffing. It just goes on and on. I think it's great, though. We're cannibalizing the old stories, too. Whitby is key in the last story. He's got all of the theories, especially in authority. And now we're just going to eat everything we thought we knew. And we're going to feel disgusting and also very happy about it.
That scene was probably one of the most fun psychological moments I think I've read in any of the books we've read together. It's the movement in the character's internal narration from, oh, gross, human remains. Wait, that's odd. There's a Southern Reach logo on the arm. What's in the pocket? Oh, a note that says, do not eat. Why would I eat these human remains? Well, maybe I should eat these human remains. No, I wouldn't eat human remains. That's odd. It smells like Five Spice and cinnamon in the air for some reason. All the way through to him eating the whole thing, flipping it over, realizing it's Whitby, having a moment of horror, and then being like, well, might as well get the face too. That whole, so the horror of cannibalism is one thing. But the psychological ride that VanderMeer takes us through is one of my favorite moments in all the books we've read together. I could not believe that.
I just love that he puts words in Whitby's mouth, too. The thing that he's just eaten. He goes, oh my God, it's Whitby. I couldn't eat Whitby. Well, wait a minute. Whitby would eat Whitby, wouldn't you? Whitby, you weirdo. so then he decides to eat Whitby.
Yeah.
Oh, would you eat Whitby?
Would I eat Whitby? Well, I don't know if I have the strength of Lowry, and that's the thing, because Lowry has strength and fortitude, and he ate Whitby. So I don't know. I probably would have eaten Whitby a lot quicker. I would have just said, I would have read "do not eat," and I would have blocked out the first two words.
Just seen eat.
Okay. Yeah. When I was about halfway through the book, no, not even that, 25% of the way. I was, it was when we started talking about alligators, alligators munching on people, and that scene with the person stuck in the mud, watching a rabbit munching on a crawfish or a fiddler crab. Sorry, a fiddler crab.
Fiddler crab.
And I was like, man, what this book adds is the sense of devouring, and how this idea that the cells of Area X, rather not even the cells, the atoms, the molecules of Area X are just in this big cycle of each other. And the whole thing is just devouring itself and devouring itself again and again and again. 25% of the way through the book, I was ready to be like, Bob, we are going to talk about this moment the whole episode. But this book, that was just a minor moment of the book. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how many moments of this book I was just like,
It's a very gustatory book, Zach. I think it's interesting how they even say a rabbit that eats meat. Is that even a rabbit anymore? A rabbit that eats other rabbits? Because at first they're eating just the fiddler crabs. And it's strange because the fiddler crabs just sit there like nothing is going on, and their eyes keep winking like this, and the rabbit just dives into them. The rabbits start eating other rabbits. There's these alligators eating other people. The rogue seems to combine with the alligator at one point, so we can't even tell which is which. And again, that's another reason I like so much when Lowry just bites Area X itself. He is so animalistic. He seems to just be driven by appetite, either sex or food or fighting. But he kind of acknowledges like you have to not kill or be killed, but you have to kind of live like Area X to escape and live in Area X. At one point, because they go in there, this expedition, they have all these calorie counters to make sure they think it's going to go hunky-dory. So they have these calorie counters to say, okay, are we all eating enough? And they have these disgusting protein bars. It's pretty much what I eat all the time. But they were eating those. And he's like, why can't we just eat some of the damn animals? And he's looking around. He says, all I see are calories. Calories everywhere. And of course, the rule is you don't eat them because they're going to corrupt you. They're going to change your composition. And it seems like if you eat Area X like that, you're taking that in. You are what you eat. But he still comes out as a functioning kind of human being, and everyone else dies. Like you said, does he really get out or not? I mean, he doesn't fall apart like the other doppelgangers who get out. And he is going back to fight against Area X. Somehow, in becoming this weird, carnivorous, wild man, he has eaten what it takes to survive and fight back.
So that's the question, I feel like. Or has he,
Or has he?
The novel's last line is, him sitting down with his suit. And it says, and he sat down and it felt really good for a while. Or I'm probably totally butchering that final line. Someone's going to rake me over the coals for this one. But
for a time, I think.
But it leaves totally ambiguous whether he sat down temporarily and then put on the suit and then left, or whether he succumbed to Area X in that moment. And what actually emerged from Area X was a doppelganger or something else. Or if he was transformed and he emerged transformed from Area X, it's totally unknown. And, I hate to say it, but I am a fish on the hook. I'm ready for more. I want answers. I want to know who the rogue is. I want to know why there was a note that said, kill Lowry. Don't eat. Is it time hijinks? Or were they planted by Area X? There's too much juice here. It's so juicy.
I am up for more. I think even though I was like, is he taking us on an uncanny wild ride? I am thoroughly pleased by this ride. And I think we've seen him do really unique things. It's not just been weird. It's been, here's how to survive the uncanny. Here's how to write a new book after 3 books. And here's how to devour your friends.
I know we're probably getting long in the tooth about discussing this episode, but I want to come back to a thread we talked about. I think probably we may have mentioned every single episode. I'm not sure if we have, but this idea that VanderMeer is a student of the genre. You and I are both reading the anthology that he co-edited with his wife called The Weird. And the story we just finished up was F. Marion Crawford's The Screaming Skull. And something I want to point out about like all of these weird stories is that they seem to exist in the space of ambiguity, but then they give you one shocking image, one real shocker, and then they bow out respectfully. Lovecraft does this also. But here I feel like his way of engaging with that tradition isn't just to do one shocker. It's to pepper you with all of these incredible lucid images all the way through to keep you reading, to keep you titillated, I might even say, with these like jaw-dropping moments of just like, like disgust and amazement.
You know, Zach, too, before we close, I think that's an interesting part about how he's managed to use the weird or wield the weird or kind of let the weird appear. Because, yes, it's often like the punchline almost. We build up to one weird image and then we can close the box, you know, the skull is put away. I think in here, the weird can come in through glass, can slip in through cracks. It comes from the shadows, comes out of the shadows. And we even see that with Area X, finding its way through time. It's like something that can always come out of the darkness or be right around the corner. He has made the weird inhabit his books so much that it feels like it's even bigger than the books, and it feels almost more real than it would have been otherwise. It's lurking through the pages and coming in wherever it wants to.
I've really enjoyed reading these books. I can't wait to continue I can't wait to use this really as a springboard for our conversations when talking about the stories in the over 100 stories that we're going to cover in the Weird Anthology. And I'm a little, I hate to say regretful, but I am a little regretful that we are swapping genres next week to the much more mundane world of historical fiction. Totally grounded, very fun, totally grounded. No screaming skulls, no devoured coworkers, no cameras that show you your own death. But what a joy, what a treat, what a pleasure. I'll talk to you later, Bob.
Talk to you later, Zach.